What are right reasons to compete? So I've been trying to deal with this. I love competing, and I love competing also as a coach. I feel like I get emotionally invested in athletes to the point that I almost feel their successes when they happen. And I think that's one of the reasons why I like coaching, because I get to live that vicarious feeling of competition without as much of the physical strain of having to do it every time yourself. But fuck, where was I going with this? Hold on.
Why do you like competing?
Oh, why?
Like, what are the reasons you
compete?
Yeah.
Why do you compete?
Yeah.
No, that wasn't why I was saying that.
Oh.
What was your original question? I completely
About
my
the amount of
ADHD
people
brain.
who are like doing film review instead of watching TikTok.
Oh shit. I completely lost where
that's okay.
my train of thought was going.
I think it was more on like you say you coach people who compete.
You had just brought up a different point. What is the reasons to compete?
Yeah, what are good reasons to compete?
Yeah.
So here's what I've been struggling with is when I was a young person, I think I had toxic competitiveness. I would validate my self-worth by beating people up or hitting them harder, not like in sport, in combat sport. Like if you're wrestling somebody or you're going to do jiu-jitsu and you're beating them, and it can inflate your self-esteem. Like, oh, I'm good at this. I like winning, and you get prizes and you get trophies and you get all this stuff. And over time, I realized like, oh, I don't know if this is like a healthy approach to life, to think about other people and to think about my competition like this, and to say like, what does it mean about me if I can't be happy without that thing, like without that reward? Or if I step into a bigger room with somebody bigger and badder and more skilled than me that beats me up, does that mean I'm a worse person than I was when I was winning? And as I've been growing older, I've been trying to figure out reasons why I like to step on competition floors for myself. But it's very different than like young athletes. And I think about that as like, what is a good reason to compete for a young athlete outside of going through that route and going through that process for themselves to figure out how important winning and money and, success at the highest level and refinement of a professional craft is. And I think it's important for people to shape those narratives in a healthy way early, because if you don't have a goal or a why that lines up with how you are as a person, it'll burn you out at some point before you're done.
I think the benefit of competing is character building, period. It's to put yourself in positions where you're working for something that you want, whether it be winning essentially, but the process of what you have to do in order to try to get some type of outcome is where all the magic is happening. And for young people, I think sports are amazing for them because whether or not they're good at anything, it teaches them those lessons in a very black and white way. Going through the training process, having to interact with other kids or other youths or other people in general, with coaches, with authority, with expectations from your parents, from media. If you are successful, what's the next step? Do I need to get a scholarship? Do I need to go pro? Maybe you don't necessarily get to that level, but just interacting with people and being faced with challenges that force you to try to overcome adversity, because like we all know, like when we're kids, our maturity level and our life experience is so low. I feel like looking for opportunities to learn like what's right, what's wrong, how does the world work? And sometimes, unfortunately, like parents and coaches, maybe who didn't learn these lessons early on, are teaching kids the wrong thing, because I think parents can be misled of thinking like, oh, if my child is a winner and successful in sport, that means I'm a good parent, and they put that pressure on them. But either way, I feel like that process of doing hard things is extremely beneficial in your life, and I think that's why a lot of people are attracted to CrossFit. But I also don't think people realize how much, especially in boxes and affiliates, the social aspect is extremely beneficial for mental health. Like I ask people when I used to work in a gym, like what made you interested in this? And there's like kind of the cookie cutter answers, like, oh, I'm trying to lose weight or I'm trying to get stronger. But you see people coming back and maybe attaching themselves to competition for too long because they're now in this social circle that there's an expectation on themselves to like, oh, my friends are doing this and I enjoy seeing these friends every day. I need to feel like I'm doing this too. And I think people get lost in that over time. And some people end up leaving CrossFit, maybe coming back. But I also think the benefit of that is I've seen CrossFit change people's lives, like turn it upside down and get them into a very good headspace because they develop confidence in themselves. Maybe they had low self-esteem.
They got
they put on
stronger,
muscle. Exactly. Start to do all these things they've never done before, and it's changed their life. So I think it can go both ways, and it's just hard for people sometimes to reconcile that if maybe they don't have self-awareness. Like they just lose their way almost in the process. But
so if you're striving to win, you also need to make sure that one of your top priorities underneath that is character building, so that if you don't win, you're automatically achieving the next goal because you stepped out into the arena and at least tried. Because most people don't ever try to win. They never put the effort, unless it's like a small scale situation, but they never put themselves into an arena that's very competitive to try to really put themselves forward to win. I've always felt like it was pretty noble of not noble, but like something I admired in athletes, that they'll put a year, 5 years, 10 years of dedication to the same thing over and over and over again to be the best at the world at it. And I feel like once you even take the stage, in a lot of ways now I'm starting to see like, oh, they're all winners. Like they've all won in a lot of the most important games of life in terms of figuring out how to have follow through in things, how to put forth effort, how to get organized enough with your time management, how to develop processes, and all of these things that go with them wherever they go after CrossFit competing.
I think CrossFitters are some of the most dedicated human beings on this planet, just because of all those things you said, like the amount of resources and time. Like I joke about this, but I'm like, you're paying money to put yourself through pain. Basically. Like, I mean, people are like, the amount of money I spend on fitness, but I mean, what else are you going to be doing with your money? You want to buy things, you want to go out drinking. Like, I don't think it's the worst thing to invest in, and you're investing in yourself. Like, when we grow up and we become adults and we start working and we have all these other responsibilities, I need to become a good parent, I need to become a good role model, I need to do well at my job. But what are you doing for yourself? And I think you can just cruise through life very easily without really challenging yourself too much. But every single day you train, I feel like there's some level of challenge, and whether that's just walking in the door, whether that's actually approaching something, being like, I'm actually going to give this my all. And I think there's so much fear for some people. They almost they're afraid that they aren't going to be successful in something, so they maybe even hold themselves back and self-sabotage. And that goes to the highest level too, when we talk about people who can't perform in competition. I think I told you about this before, where I heard about what was it? It was like, man, I'm blanking. It was like something about pressure. There's fear of failure and there's fear of success. And so if you actually, say you had amazing rookie year and you hit the podium, and then that expectation is created, right? Okay, this person hit the podium in the first year, so next year they need to win or whatever. And then something happens that next year, and even if you just get 5th or whatever, 13th, 20th, so you kind of have this fall from grace, and you're like, oh shit, like, I suck. Like I can't live up to the hype. I'm not as good as people thought I was. And then sometimes those people struggle with actually going all in to try to get to the top, because that fall from grace was so painful for them. So they almost don't even want success anymore, and they start sabotaging themselves because they're afraid of failing again. And I think it can be both ways. I mean, failure, like we're hardwired to fear failure. We're hardwired for survival, like all of these things biologically in ourselves. And I think fear is like one of the top reasons people hold themselves back in the first place. And also, I'm losing myself. My train of thought.
All right, next episode we're drinking coffee.
Because we lost our train of thought.
I think this is the 4th time.
You said something about you can go through life without challenging yourself, but I don't think you can go through life without being challenged by life. And I do think, even though it's their mundane challenges, like, oh, my legs really hurt and I need to stand up another squat, or God, my heart rate's so high and my hands burn, but I need to finish this row. Facing those very uncomfortable situations and overcoming them or figuring out how to navigate them are mental skills that do transfer to other things that happen that are maybe more profoundly serious, that life is going to throw. Like you're going to have somebody probably that you care about who passes away, and you're going to have these major goals that don't work out in life. And being able to go through the reps of doing that in a structured, competitive way in a sport helps you, I think, sometimes handle that. And I think it also gives you an outlet away from it sometimes, right? Like if you need a mental break from the hard stuff in life, you can always kind of go back into that state of mind that pulls your full focus in because you've practiced giving full focus to something in that arena.
Absolutely. And going back to the journaling thing and puzzles and Legos and presents, doing a workout or doing a lift, you have full focus and you have to be present in that moment. And I think that's also another practice of like getting away from your phone, getting away from all these distractions, and doing something that's actually going to help hopefully benefit you as a person, whether that be physically, whether that be mentally, socially, etc. So, yeah.
All right. So to conclude, I think your post did a good job of making it simple. How do you measure your success? And I think why are you doing what you're doing? 2 would be evaluating progress on your process with qualitative things like, did I enjoy this competition? Did I stick to my competitive process? All of those types of things. And then quantitatively, in this sport, I think that's really important. Like, are your basic things getting better? Are you squatting more? Are you deadlifting more? Are you repeating certain Metcons that exposed you in the past and getting better at them? And are you seeing those things that can bolster your self-esteem? And then the last one, speaking of self-esteem, is developing your self-worth, separating your identity from just winning and self-worth, really understanding why you're doing what you're doing, what you take value in it, who the people you lean on are, why you are excited for the challenge of competition or the pain that's going to come with the competition and all of that type of stuff. Anything else?
I think that's it.
Espresso shots?
Yep. Sounds good.
Let's get a no-go sponsorship.
See you guys.
See y'all next time. Hope you enjoyed this clip from episode 125 of the Corpus Animus Podcast. To hear the full episode where Max and Perrin discuss training your mentality to be a better competitor, social media and toxic positivity, your actions aligning with your goals, accepting that you no longer want to compete in CrossFit, and finding out if you are competing in CrossFit for the wrong reasons. Check out the audio version on all major podcast providers or peep the other clips right here on YouTube.